UFOs are frequently reported to be hiding in or near clouds. Case in point, last season we examined a 1971 photograph of an alleged metallic disc nestled in the clouds above Lake Cote, Costa Rica. Our next story suggests that this is an ongoing trend. February 14th, 2010, 45 miles southeast of Santiago, Chile. A family of 3 arrives near the El Yeso Reservoir for a Sunday picnic in the Andes. It's a beautiful day, so the mother takes 16 pictures of the valley and the sky up above with her digital camera. It isn't until they return home and review the photos that she realizes what she's captured. One of the photos shows the sun shining in the middle of bright white clouds. Above it, to the left, is a band of reddish clouds, and embedded within is a seemingly massive saucer-shaped object. The Chilean government reviewed the photos and shared them with Ted Rowe, who runs the National Aviation Reporting Center on Anomalous Phenomena, or NARCAP. He conducted an exhaustive analysis of these photographs.
The photograph contains an anomaly in the upper left-hand quadrant. You see the sun, you see a fluffy layer of cumulus clouds, and then behind them you see a layer of reddish clouds, and embedded in those clouds is what appears to be part of a disk.
The lines you're seeing across this photograph represent separate sections the NARCAP analyst used to record light levels in the photo and determine if the object was solid.
You want to understand how that light is distributed, looking at the red, green, and blue factors primarily, and studying the luminance of the object and of the environment.
Each section is given a number value, and when that data was compared to the surrounding area, here's what NARCAP concluded.
This study resolves that this is in fact an external anomaly. It does not appear to be inserted in the photograph, so we're left with an unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Journalist MJ Banayas notes that Chile is often mentioned as the country with the highest recorded number of UFO sightings. UFO enthusiasts have even claimed this lagoon that lies behind the mountains surrounding the El Yeso Reservoir could be a UFO landing strip.
We have countless other reports of UFO-shaped clouds all over Chile. There's reports out of Sobre, Metacunga, and the Chilean Patagonia. We also have a lot of reports of other UFO sightings around the El Yeso Reservoir.
As for the photos showing an alleged UFO in the clouds,
there's a theory out there that UFOs will hide in clouds or even generate clouds around them to stay hidden from humans.
In January 2023, a similar UFO-shaped cloud shocked residents of a city in Turkey. It hung in the skies for over an hour. What they captured here was a lenticular cloud, which forms when air blows across tall structures like a mountain range and causes vapor to condense in these stunning disc-like shapes. So could the object seen in our Chilean photo have a similar explanation, or is it a genuine UFO? First, are we actually looking at something in the sky or something in the camera? Astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio has a theory that starts with those strange colors seen in the sky.
These are cirrus clouds. They're ice crystals at high altitude that form in the atmosphere. And sometimes, the way the sun hits them, you get this beautiful prismatic effect. And that's what we're seeing here, in my view. Here's another thing. If we divide the image in half, we have the sun over here and the object over here, and the distance from the center of frame to that object is the same. The likelihood is very small that an object is going to be exactly the same distance away from the center of the frame as the sun, unless you're a lens flare.
Lens flares that can take the form of rings, spheres, starbursts, and other shapes are caused when bright light hits the camera lens, creating artifacts. But meteorologist Juan Hernandez respectfully disagrees with the lens flare theory.
Although I'm not a photography expert, it does not seem like we're looking at a camera artifact. We have this odd orange spot within the clouds. I'm not exactly sure why that would appear in that location. Oftentimes, camera artifacts might look like lines. In this case, we see a blob in the middle of the clouds.
Hernandez explores the notion that what we're seeing could be lenticular clouds, which are commonly mistaken for UFOs.
It's possible to have lenticular clouds in the Andes, but only under certain conditions. and those conditions were not met this specific day. We would be looking for more moisture in the air and faster flow in the wind speed.
For Hernandez, it's the reddish hue that's the biggest mystery.
The likely explanation towards a reddish hue to any cloud would be a setting sun. We obviously don't have a setting sun. It's the middle of the day.
Physicist Matthew Shadagas agrees with Hernandez that this thing is indeed a thing.
The photograph has been studied by UFO experts looking for mundane explanations like nearby aircraft, and they did come up empty for this day and time.
After carefully reviewing the NARCAP report, Shadagas agrees with their findings.
I agree with the conclusion of the NARCAP report, which suggested that this object is truly unidentified. So it's a genuine UFO. That doesn't mean it's an alien spacecraft. It simply means we are unable to identify what it is.
Well, there you have it. We're calling this a genuine UFO. While the Chilean government has yet to comment on the photo, NARCAP has released their 23-page case report to the public. July 15th, 2022. It's a clear summer afternoon as Nisha Higgins is traveling down the highway in Tempe, Arizona. But as she drives past the airport, she catches something floating in the distance from the corner of her eye. So she pulls out her phone and captures this.
Y'all see that? What is that?
Let's zoom in. A mysterious-looking dark, oblong object appears to be stationary in front of the clouds. Honestly, it looks a little like that 1957 Holloman Air Force Base UFO. Author Jason Martell agrees that something here doesn't seem right.
We can see other clouds in the vicinity that are much more fluffy in nature. This one seems almost out of place. The object raises enough of a concern to wonder what exactly it could be, but it just in general looks very UFO-like.
A UFO in the shape of a cloud? It may be a possibility.
If we think about ufology in general, there's many aspects where UFOs have used clouds or meteorological events to obfuscate what's really happening.
Social media sites are littered with UFO cloud sightings. In California, Mount Shasta is frequently blanketed by strange oblong clouds, which has prompted some speculation that these clouds act as a UFO cloaking device, hiding alien visitation in plain sight. But others argue these strange shapes are proof of government weather manipulation.
The phenomenon of cloud seeding is basically using certain chemicals that increase condensation inside the cloud, that way also increasing precipitation. This combination of chemicals has been known to cause rain clouds to form. We know that no less than 8 states across the US, Arizona being one of them, actually use cloud seeding to mitigate drought.
Hidden aliens, government weather manipulation, or something else, UFO clouds are having a moment. For millennia, oracles looked to the heavens and judged the significance of strange shapes in the sky. But in this modern space age, some are asking, could many of these strange shapes have been UFOs all along? Let's see if our experts can figure out if this cloud could be more than a cloud. First, could there be a spacecraft hiding in that cloud? We asked video analyst Mark D'Antonio.
The ATC, or Air Traffic Control, has pretty sophisticated radars. And right now, there's virtually no objects that can go undetected by airport radars.
A check of FAA records shows no near misses in the area that day, nor were there any nearby rocket launches. And while some argue UFOs might well have radar cloaking technology, D'Antonio points out the FAA isn't the only one monitoring the skies above Tempe.
If this was an actual craft, you can bet the folks from Williams Gateway or Luke Air Force Base, where there's lots of military presence, would have scrambled to go check it out.
So if it's not a secret alien ship, is it a government weather manipulation program?
Is this a cloud seeding project? The problem with that, for me, is that this is an extremely small localized cloud. But a cloud seeding operation is a vast operation. You're not going to cloud seed right in this one little spot. I don't see any way in which this could be weather manipulation, actually.
Okay, so if it's not artificial weather, could it be natural? According to meteorologist Juan Hernandez, the clue in the video is the surrounding Arizona terrain.
If we take a closer look down towards the ground, we notice that there is some terrain. So this is the Tempe area, which is surrounded by mountains on the north side and the eastern side.
These mountains, or specifically the cold gusts of wind that run up into them, collide with the moist atmosphere, creating lenticular clouds that could look a little or a lot like hovering flying saucers.
The wind cannot flow through the mountain. It must either flow around the mountain or on top of the mountain.
That upcurrent creates a standing wave of cold air, which then collides with moisture and forms this unique saucer-shaped cloud. But why does it appear to stay stationary, like an ominous hovering spacecraft?
Although the wind is quickly moving, lenticular clouds oftentimes look stationary because that's the right condition for the atmosphere to condensate.
After all, the perfect lenticular cloud conditions are created by unmoving terrain. So these clouds tend to form and dissipate in those perfect stationary spots.
And they oftentimes look fairly ominous. So I can see why someone would mistake this for a UFO.
Our verdict? Lenticular cloud. We agree with Juan Hernandez that this is an extraordinary-looking natural phenomenon. But if you happen to have your camera and get footage of a massive UFO drifting over your town, be sure to send it our way. It's a beautiful, clear day in Camden, South Carolina in October of 2016. Welder Corey Heron is leaving his wife's office when he spots something overhead so stunning, he starts live streaming it to Facebook.
Nobody will believe me if I didn't do this live, but I want you to look at this cloud in the sky. Check that out.
Hovering just above a nearby building is a cloud that looks unmistakably familiar.
Is that not an angel or what? Look, I mean, you can almost like see a face.
It also appears to have large, perfectly symmetrical wings. As Corey marvels at this cloud figure, it doesn't seem to move from this spot, and there's barely another cloud around.
I don't know that I've ever seen with my own two eyes this type of cloud. This is my angel.
With normal clouds, you would expect to see dissipation, but this image was persistent. What's interesting is this gentleman apparently had a tough time with an incident that had happened and was perhaps looking for a sign or needing some support.
This sighting wasn't just transformative for Corey at a vulnerable time in his life. It was spiritually inspiring to many of the over 9 million people who watched his video.
All right. Hope y'all enjoyed it as much as I did.
The same year as Corey's sighting, a Gallup poll found that 72% of Americans believe angels exist. So is the video proof that they are indeed watching over us? Let's have our analysts test their faith in this idea. First, we determined if the cloud formation is particularly unusual.
The thin, wispy characteristics of this particular cloud indicates that it's likely made of ice crystals. The light that's reflecting from it and passing through it isn't being reflected as effectively as if this was a cloud made of water. This is actually a process known as sublimation, where the ice crystals are turning back into water vapor and thus becoming invisible. So that kind of differential around the cloud can lead to pieces of it going away and forming interesting shapes.
And as to how this cloud was able to stay still and maintain its angelic shape,
there would need to be a few different things happening. For one, that the winds at that altitude are relatively calm, and so that the cloud is not being moved away quickly.
I don't even think it's moved.
Another factor would be that there is enough moisture in that layer of the atmosphere so that the different cloud particles don't disappear back into water vapor very quickly.
Professor Hintz checks the weather conditions on that day to see if they are consistent with what we see in the video.
There's actually a pretty broad high-pressure region over the eastern United States. The winds within a high-pressure region are often very calm, so that would actually set up the conditions to being calm enough that the cloud is able to hang around for a long period of time.
Our verdict? This sighting was a naturally forming cloud. But it is not our place to say whether it was caused by divine intervention. Those who believe in angels still see sightings like these as a sign, and we could all use a little help from above.